Cara straniera, quanta malinconia quando ci salutammo, non so perché. Tu mi gettasti un bacio e fuggisti via, eppure adesso, te lo confesso, non penso a te. Non li ricordo più, quegli occhi belli, pieni di luce calda ed infinita. Mi son dimenticato i tuoi capelli e la boccuccia che era la mia vita. Ma sogno notte di la mia casetta.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Anthony Rea, or Tony Rea, as people call me. Everybody who knows me calls me Tony. Well, my family call me Anthony. So I was born in 1962 into an Italian family in Ancoats. My family were involved in the ice cream business. I grew up in Ancoats. My formative years were spent in the area. I went to school at St Michael's.
Ladies first.
I'm Maria Gillespie. I was Maria Vitti. I was brought up in Ancoats. My parents' name was Mary Angela and Donato Vitti. This is my brother John.
My name's John Vitti. Again, I was born in Ancoats, or born in Manchester, but from Ancoats, same street as my sister in Blossom Street in the heart of Little Italy.
So you can say from the 1860s to the 1930s, the Italian community flourished. And you got the peasantry coming from the hills around Frosinone, from Liguria in northern Italy, and other regions of Italy. You know, they came and they settled here, and they built ice cream businesses. They were in the production of tiles as well, of the terrazzo tiles.
When around the time was it that your family moved to Britain from Manchester?
The early
Late 1800s.
Yes,
early 1900s. But again, two separate families, one from the north, one from the south, and both coming from Italy, but through various routes. My father's family seemed to have migrated to America and then come to England, and my mother's parents came from Italy, walking across Europe, coming eventually to Manchester, where they settled. So two very diverse families, both arriving in Manchester. Yeah.
Dietro i tetti blu pieni di stupor scivola un chiarore, oh, cosa mai sarà, cosa mai sarà? Ecco un argenteo fil dondola tra i fior, sono chiusi ancora e la luna va, e la luna va.
What made Little Italy? It wasn't the buildings, it wasn't the housing stock, because it was all weavers' cottages originally, which were very poor in amenities. So it wasn't the infrastructure that made Little Italy, it was the people.
A nice little story that there was a lady called Mrs. Prasad that was the same age as my nana, and she used to come every day, dead on 3 o'clock, and they used to have coffee and cherry cake, and this is what they used to do in Italy. So they still carried on doing it at dead on 3 o'clock in Blossom Street in Ancoats. And the accordion, the men going round playing the accordion from street to street. Sometimes the ladies used to go out and dance. Just the smell of all the food. There was a delicatessen called Brummies. Was it Corporation Street?
It was off Corporation Street,
Corporation
where the
Street.
Arndale is now.
And we used to go there and get all the salamis and beautiful, beautiful food.
How would you describe the relationship between the Italian community and the people of Manchester?
The Italian community at that period made Ancoats what it was. And especially, you know, with their English neighbours and their Irish neighbours. And don't forget there was Jewish businesses in the area. And some of the Italian girls worked for some of the Jewish businesses that were established in the Ancoats area. And the Italians got on with the Jewish community, they got on with the English community and the Irish community. And they came with nothing, and they didn't ask for anything. Yeah. And at that period in time, there was no such a thing as social security and free housing. You know, and that was the same for every family that lived in Ancoats.
It was just a lovely atmosphere, you know, sort of. They were still making ice cream.
Well, no, they had to stop, didn't they, during
Well,
the war.
there was some ice cream still going on.
There's very little because of the products were hard to get. This is 39 to 45.
Yeah, but the Bergens still made ice cream.
My mother was Margherita Schiavo, Margaret, and her family were Vincent's Ices, and my family in the ice cream business were Mark O'Rear and Sons, and our factory was on Hood Street in Ancoats, and I used to always be there as a youngster, as a kid, you know. It was fantastic to be able to just, you know, help yourself to ice cream. You know, as a kid, it's like being in heaven, isn't it? You know, like all this ice cream and all the people you knew were involved in the ice cream business. So everywhere you went as a child, you know, you used to get ice cream. People had to work, they had to save, and they had to do things slowly. Where today we can do things quicker because you can lend from banks, you can have credit cards. That's another story.
He'd been a slaughterman, he was a butcher, and he wanted to actually do butchering in the army to continue because, you know, of his trade, but he had to drive trucks. But he was quite a fit man, very muscular, as you imagine was with the job, very agile. And also, he was a keen boxer.
The Second World War started on the 1st of September 1939 when Germany, under the command of fascist leader Adolf Hitler, invaded Poland and later the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia. However, it wasn't until the 10th of June 1940 when Benito Mussolini, Italian fascist leader, had declared war against the Allied powers, thus thrusting them into a world war and at the same time making all Italians within the Allied lands potential threats.
Nella storia d'Italia e di memorabili eventi destinati ad imprimere un nuovo corso nella storia dei continenti.
The Battle of Midway, June 3rd to June 6th, 1942, was one of the decisive naval battles of history. The engagement was decided entirely by air power, with no surface gun action.
3,000 ton of bombs to help an ally. Now they hit Dresden, hardest of all. Dresden, hardest of all. Ack. 800 RAF Lancasters splashed 650,000 incendiary bombs on transportation lines in Germany's seventh largest city.
The seizure of Midway. Its air groups were well trained, although the Hornet crew lacked combat experience in the Pacific. Sinkpak placed this striking force where he could either outflank the expected Japanese forces or transfer it to the Aleutians.
Following the disastrous Italian military campaign and the Allied pushback into mainland Europe, Benito Mussolini's position was reduced to the leader of a German puppet state in northern Italy. By April 1945, the Allies had broken through the last German defences and a general uprising of the partisans taken hold in the cities. On the 25th of April, Mussolini fled Milan for the Swiss border. Two days later, on the 27th, him and his mistress Claretta Petacci were captured by local partisans near the village of Dongo on Lake Como. They were shot the following afternoon.
Bombastic Mussolini, the sawdust Caesar, comes to his end in the gutter, fitting climax to a life of treachery and double-cross.
Their bodies were taken to the Piazza Loreto and hung upside down from a metal girder above a service station to be insulted and abused by the large angry crowd that gathered.
He led his country to ruin when he threw his lot in with Hitler. Oh yes, they saw some palmy days when Il Duce confidently stabbed France in the back. He had dreams of empire before the bayonets of the Allies deflated this false prophet.
Well, some people didn't take kindly to it. You know, stones were threw at windows. In Glasgow, shops were smashed up. In London, there was a lot of Italian shops that were smashed up. The Italian community was not the flavour of the month. People resented them. In Ancoats, certain people resented the Italians as well. But majority of the people were very nice towards them because they knew them, they trusted them, and they respected them. They were also Italian sons of Italian immigrants in the British Army. There was many sons in the British Army who fought bravely and gallantly. You know, they had a passion for England, but they were also of Italian descent. Their parents were Italian.
Could you give us any examples of like discrimination that your family had faced during the war?
Well, the obvious one was what I was saying about my father. Certain elements within the army, like any society I suppose, took exception to his nationality and started taunting him, and this is how over a period of time he got really angry about the situation. Here he is wearing the king's uniform, prepared to lay down his life, yet people are calling him. And it was comments, as he said to me, as when they were doing bayonet practice, and they'd have sacks full of sawdust dangling on ropes, and you charge up, you thrust your bayonet into the sack, turn it, pull it back, run on, and this is the sort of bayonet practice they were doing. But you know, he was in a position, because of his Italian parentage, to receive the abuse of these certain elements. And they were shouting things like, pretend that's Vitty's mother there, stick it in, turn the bayonet now, come on, kick it, move on. And he says, can you imagine this going on and on and on and on, and using my family as the bayonet practice targets. And eventually he'd had enough and he threw his weapon down and said, look, I'm prepared to fight, but I'm not prepared for this rubbish. So the next thing, they grabbed hold of him, took him down, put him in cells, and then they started going in and physically abusing him. So, but being, as I said, quite an agile person, quite muscular and can box a bit, he held his own. So after I put the two sergeants come home with a bust nose, and a thick ear, then they sent like another 2 or 3 in, and he says, so, okay, I clobbered them. He said, but when the cell's full of people, they're kicking you, he says, there's only a certain amount a person can do. And in later years, the repercussions it had, I should have just taken it and shut up. Because, as I've explained to you prior to this, that once he was in detention quarters, the army stopped his money.
He was there 9 months.
Yeah, so his pay stopped. And he was still going through all this abuse, and physical as well as mental abuse, and verbal continuously. And this eventually impounded on my mother becoming ill because she was receiving no payment. Money had stopped completely because, as far as the army was concerned, you're not going to soldier, we're not going to pay you. So complete stoppage of pay. And she was struggling. She had a young child. This is Maria. And things went from bad to worse. Her health deteriorated, and then eventually she got tuberculosis, which was to stay with her for quite a few years and disrupted the family, because the family would take away from her because tuberculosis is quite contagious. The younger daughter, born in 51, was removed from her completely, and her health never recovered.
How was the economics of Ancoats affected by World War II? To what extent?
Well, there was a total ban on ice cream manufacture. All your accounts were frozen. You had no access to money. Your radios were taken away. You had to report to the police if you wanted to leave Manchester. You couldn't just say, oh, I'll go to such and such a place today, or I'll travel to Liverpool, or I'll travel down to London, or wherever they had family up in Scotland and London and Birmingham and places. You had to report to the police and get permission to travel. They had to have the photographs taken and things like that, and they had to have papers because they were Italian citizens, a lot of them. And this is what happens when war is declared. They were in a turmoil. The fathers were taken away and interned on the Isle of Man. Some were sent on a ship to Canada on the Arandora Star that sank off the west coast of Ireland with a great loss of life. And that was a tragedy for the Italian community.
I know the Andorra Star did have a marked effect on people's attitude. A lot of the Italians were quite bitter that people who were just grocers and ice cream men were rounded up, stuck on a ship and then drowned when they'd done nothing in the first place,
The Italian declaration of war meant that many Italians worldwide were seen as the enemy. With Winston Churchill's proclamation of Collar the Lot, Italian men between the ages of 17 and 60 were arrested and interned. They were taken to detainment camps around the country, but most of the internees found themselves on the Isle of Man and parts of Canada. However, disaster was still to come. The SS Arandora Star, whose life started as a passenger liner and was reappropriated for the wartime effort, was on its way to Canada carrying some 1,500 people.
Il naviglio leggero di scorta ad una nostra grande e modernissima nave da battaglia.
The ship was sunk off the west coast of Ireland and claimed the lives of around 470 Italians and 143 Germans.
La squadra navale in piena navigazione. Tutti gli uomini sono ai posti di combattimento.
Although there has yet to be a full apology, campaigns around the world have raised awareness for the tragic events surrounding the Arandora Star, with recent memorials in Liverpool and Manchester being erected in honour of the Italian people who lived, fought and died for this country.
Un velivolo è catapultato per la ricognizione. Ritorno di un sommergibile alla base dopo lunga navigazione per sbarcare feriti e prigionieri inglesi salvati dal naufragio della loro nave volata a picco dai nostri.
How would you say this has affected the Italian community today?
It's not really affected the community as such. Yeah, okay, we don't live together, but we all come together at the Festa del Rosario when we have the Italian procession. And that's encouraged other parishes now to come and join in with the Italian community. You know, the Italian Association, which was the old Manchester Italian Catholic Society, you know, we have a lot to thank that society for, which today is now MIA, Manchester Italian Association. The Italian Association, over the years, worked relentlessly to keep the community together and to bring the community together. They no longer lived in Ancoats. There was only a few families that lived there from the vast majority that used to live there, but the community has stayed together and is still together, and we still have functions even today.
How is the Italian community now? Obviously, because everybody got kicked out of...
Fragmented.
Yeah.
You've had many waves of Italians coming over.
Yeah.
And I suppose each wave that comes over, they think they are the Italian community. And of course, with the integration into the European Union, I mean, it's open to anybody in Italy to come here. So you've got the burgeoning Italian restaurant business here. I mean, wherever you go, there's new Italian restaurants, there's more people coming over. So the Italian community grows and grows and grows. It's probably bigger now than it ever has been in the past, but people like ourselves think we are the original.
the best.
Go down to St Michael's on the Italian Walk Day, and you'll understand what we're trying to say. And you will meet lots and lots of people there. I mean, you can just go round and truly ask questions, because nobody bothered. Everybody's happy to see everybody, aren't they? And
you lasted another year, you know, because
just
most people only, it's an annual event, you know, and then, oh, he's gone, has he? Oh, God rest his soul, you know.